Welcome to JSS Matriculation School Talavadi Social Class. Today I go to explain you history, lesson number 3, rural life and society. In the pre-colonial period, Indian economy was predominantly an agrarian economy. Agriculture was then the primary occupation of the people, and even industries like textile, sugar, oil, etc. were depend on it. The British government in India did not adopt a pro-Indian agriculture and land revenue policy. British government introduced three major land revenue and tenurial system in India, namely the permanent settlement, the Mahalwari system, and the Raitwari system. The economic exploitations of the peasants led to the revolt in futures. Now we are going to learn about the land revenue policy under the British. I will give the detailed explanations in the picture of the right side of above in the slide. Now we are going to study about permanent settlement. When Robert Clive obtained the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa in 1765, there used to be an annual settlement of land revenue system. Warren Hastings changed its form annual to quinennial, means the 5 years only, and back to annual again. During the time of Cornwallis, a 10 years decennial settlement was introduced in 1793 and it was now permanent settlement. Permanent settlement were made in Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, Varanasi, divisions of UP and North Karnataka, which roughly covered 19% of the total area of British India. It was known by different names like Jamindari, Jagirdari, Magulari and Bisvedari. Now we are going to learn about the silent futures of the permanent settlements. The Jamindar were recognized as the owner of the land as long as they paid the revenue to the East India Company regularly. The next point is the Jamindar acted as the agent of the government for the collection of revenue for the cultivators. The next is the amount of revenue that the Jamindar had to pay to the company was firmly fixed and would not be raised under any circumstances. Silent futures of the permanent settlement is they gave 10 by 11 of the revenue collected by them from the cultivators to the government. The Jamindars would grant patta, right in agreement, to the ryots. The ryots become tenants since they were considered the tilters of the soil. All the judicial power were taken away from the Jamindars. Now we are going to learn about merits of permanent settlements. Under this system, many of the wastelands and forests become cultivatable lands. The Jamindars became the owners of the land. The Jamindars were made free from the responsibility and providing justice. The next is the Jamindars remained faithful to the British government. And the next is last one, the system secured a fixed and stable income for the British government. We are going to study about demerits of the permanent settlements. The British government had no direct contact with the cultivators. The right of the cultivators were ignored and they were left at the mercy of the Jamindars. The peasant were almost treated as serfs. The system was made the Jamindar lethargic and luxurious. Many conflicts between the Jamindars and the peasants arose in rural Bengal. Next, we are going to study about Raitwari system. Raitwari system was introduced by Thomas Munro and Captain Reed in 1820. Major areas of introduction of Raitwari system included Madras, Bombay, parts of Assam and Coorg provinces of British India. By Raitwari system, the rights of ownership was handed over to the peasants. British government collected taxes directly from the peasants. Initially, one of the estimate produce was fixed as rent. This assignment was reduced to one third of the produce by Thomas Munro. The revenue was based on the basis of the soil and the nature of the crop. Rents would be periodically revised, generally after 20 to 30 years. The positions of the cultivator became more secure. In this system, the settlement was made between the government and the rights. In fact, the government later claimed that the land revenue was rent and not a tax. Next, we are going to learn about silent futures of the Raitwari system. Revenue settlements was done directly with the riots. The next is measurement of field of an estimate of produce was calculated. Government fixed the demand at 45% to 55% of produce. Next, we are going to learn about effects of the Raitwari systems or settlements. In the most areas, the land revenue fixed was extensive. The rights were hardly left with bare maintenance even in the best of the seasons. Under this system, the government exploited the farmers instead of zamindars. Next, we are going to study about Mahalwari systems. Mahalwari systems, a brainchild of Holt Mackenzie, was modified version of the Jamindari settlement, introduced in the Ganga Valley. The northwest provinces, part of the central India and Punjab in 1822. Lord William Bentinck was to suggest radical changes in what we want to call that the Mahalwari system. The Mahalwari system by the guidance of Robert Martin Byrd in 1833. Assessment of revenue was to be made on the basis of the produce of a mahal or village. All the properties of a mahal were several and jointly responsible for the payment of revenue. Initially, the state share was fixed 2/3 of the gross produce. Bentinck, therefore, reduced to 50%. The village as a whole through the headman or lambadar, we are called the Jamindar in this means, was required to pay the revenue. The next is this system was first adopted in Agra and Awadh and later extended to other parts of the United Provinces. The burden of all this heavy taxation finally fell on the cultivators. Next, we are going to learn about silent futures of the Mahalwari settlements. The Lambadar, means Jamindar, acted as intermediary between the government and the villagers. It was a village-wise assessment. One person could hold a number of villages. The village community was the owner of the village common land. The village land belongs to the village community. The next we are going to learn about effects of the Mahalwari settlements. The Lambadar enjoyed privileges which was misused for their self-interest. The system brought no benefit to the cultivators. It was a modified version of Jamindari system and benefited the upper class in villages. Next, we are going to study about impact of the British land revenue system on the cultivators. A common feature of all the settlements was an assessment and the maximized income of land. It resulted in increasing land sales and dispersions. The peasants were overburdened with taxation. Due to the tax burden and famines in general, the people suffered in poverty and burned with debts. They had to seek the moneylenders who became rich and acquired lands from the peasants. The Jamindars, moneylenders, and lawyers exploited the poor peasants. The sustainability and continuity of the Indian villages was shaken. Cottage industries disappeared on account of the import of British goods, and the peasants had nothing to supplement their income. The old body of custom was replaced by new apparatus of law, court, fees, lawyers, and formal procedures. The British policy proved advantageous only to the government of privileged section of the society at the cost of the cultivators who were the rightful owners of their lands and climates of the larger share of the produce.